Hello, everybody, and welcome to Athletic Definition. My name is Coach Ray Z, and today my guest is Mike Ball. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
And I know you just got done training, so I definitely appreciate your time. And
I'm
I always, I always like to just start off with the beginning. Yeah, as a kid, were you active? Was your family into sports? Was that something they pushed you, or did you just like to do the whole video game?
I did like video games. I still do to a degree, honestly, but no, my folks would never push me into anything that active. I think in just subconsciously, I felt like, oh, I need to be doing baseball or football or basketball or something like that. So I dipped my toes in it, but I was not good at all. I did the thing I found some success in was like taekwondo. So as a at a young age, I got into that and did that for years and years. But no, my coordination was not awesome for dribbling and running sports and things like that. So
So, how far did you get in your Taekwondo? Did you make it to black belt?
yeah, I got a black belt. I maybe did 4 or 5 years or something like that, and you do like point system competitions and things, and just a lot of forms and katas. But the more you come out of that, you realize, hey, everyone has a black belt in Taekwondo, almost just about. So
But that one is I could be wrong, but that one is an Olympic sport, right?
yeah, absolutely. There's definitely very serious, gnarlier sections of Taekwondo and other ones that are a little more, just marketable more for kids and things like that. And I think that's kind of what I was in, honestly. So
And before we move on, I did forget to mention to you if you want to share the stream with anybody or anyone listening in, there's two little lines on the bottom to your left,
right.
and you will see broadcast the world. And from there, you can copy a link, share it to Facebook, Twitter,
Oh, nice.
and people don't even have to have the app in order to watch it or listen in. So that's a very cool feature.
Sweet.
And so in high school, did you play any sports, or was that something that you?
I wrestled very very briefly. I didn't really compete or anything. There was other people in my weight class that were much better at that, so they had people in line for that. But I trained in the wrestling room for a little bit, and again, that was like I was a little more into music and arts and different things in high school, and I was not very athletic. I would say I'm rather tall and lanky, and so I've always especially in high school I was probably 160 pounds or something like that, and for somebody that's 6'3", that's pretty slender. So no, I didn't really have any athletic endeavors back then as much. Yeah, until I started doing jujitsu, I guess.
And when did you start doing jujitsu? Was that after wrestling?
Yeah, that was a while later. I was probably 21 or 22, and I there was actually a college class in my community college here in town that I was going to, and it was like Japanese jiu-jitsu. I'm like, that sounds interesting, and I'd go. And it was a very, I mean, you do jiu-jitsu as well, so it's a kind of an rather intricate art and sport and everything. This was very broad and bland. It was a little more like judo, and the groundwork was a little more just put your weight on them and try to get this here. It wasn't as technical, but it was very good as an introduction to those things. So I started with that, and then obviously you just blossom and you find things on the internet, and I was like, I need to keep doing this. So
So was wrestling what got you interested into jujitsu, or did you watch UFC like a lot of us?
I was just like a lot of us. It was definitely more UFC and just seeing the utility um, of jujitsu, and just like I said, I was a little more slender in high school, so it wasn't like I wasn't as in control and sure of my body back then. And even past the physical stuff, I didn't have a ton of like confidence, and I always felt like the scariest thing was almost getting in a fight and like not knowing what to do or getting my ass kicked to where I was helpless, defenseless in some way, and that that certainly turned the corner with like UFC and just seeing uh, connecting that, like seeing like a smaller person win in these situations. Yeah, that really appealed to me, and I think a lot of people. Right? So,
Oh, I mean, I probably weigh like 165 right now, and I'm 6 feet.
yeah,
So for sure, the appeal of the smaller guy defeating the bigger guy, and then as I learned more about it, I'm like, it's about the weak defeating the strong, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, it sounds like it's meant for me.
right.
Uh, yeah, it was very interesting once I got more and more into it, and after that, well, when at what point did you were you going to school from the beginning for like I know you have your PT background and your Kinstretch. Were you going to school for something sports related?
So initially, man, like right after high school, right off the bat, I started going for music actually. And it was just like, it was a little out of my wheelhouse to where I was very basic in that department. And it was just, it was something I liked and it was turning into like work and schooling. And I was like, I need to get out of this. I took a couple years off. And when I came back, I had started weightlifting a little bit just because I would go on runs. I like, don't know what the hell I was doing in the gym. I was going to like a YMCA, right? And not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was just like a low key gym in town that I was like, oh, like nobody will see me doing anything here. Uh, so I did that, and yeah, I just got into that more and more, and I figured, hey, I should go to school for this. It was just interesting to me, the study of the body and like what's going on. I could directly look down and go, oh, that's where my liver is, or fucking that's what's going on when when I go on a run or something like that. So um, yeah, I started getting more into that as I went back to school, and I just thought, oh, I'll put it all into like an associates of science. And you mentioned PT, so that's why I started to go in. I went to PT school, basically a physical therapy assistant from there, and that's it's an associate's degree basically, but it gives you a whole lot. It's very interesting, and yeah, it's all of that is so similar too. People like to separate, physical therapy and all and traditional exercise when it should really be they're so closely related. It's just it's almost like Instagram in the fitness industry. It kind of swings it, makes it look so different, and I wanted to bring those things together a little bit more. So
Hmm. That's very interesting. Oh, what kind of dog is that?
his shepherd husky. So he's hanging out.
Wanted to make a cameo. And I've heard of Kinstretch, and I don't think I've actually had like a taken a class on it. I had to do a little bit of research, and one of the first things that came up right away was a Kinstretch versus yoga, and
Oh,
I want to talk about that a little bit. But I guess just for the average person who doesn't know what that is, um, what would you describe it as?
um, so I'll try to keep this, as short and concise. It's easy to make this sound so like extreme and over the top when we look things up. Kinstretch is a name we use for functional range conditioning. Functional range conditioning is a thought process, a movement system to get more range of motion, basically, in somebody. Kinstretch, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to go to a functional range conditioning class, saying, I'm going to go to a Kinstretch class sounds so much sexier. Yeah. Like it's just a better name. It plainly is just a better name. So Kinstretch is basically the group version of what you would want to do of what you do in FRC. You go to an FRC seminar for a couple days, 2-3 days or whatever. You do the same thing in Kinstretch. They just adapt it to a group setting a little bit more, and you get to more people in that way with the work. So that's basically what it's a movement enhancement system. It's not as stretchy as the name might lead it to believe, but it's definitely there. So
And then I did start watching some of the different kind of like positions, and I'm sure it's endless, but some of it did look a little bit like yoga.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh
and
no. Yeah.
and and is it like very like similar to yoga?
Yeah. I would absolutely say it's much similar to yoga. You know what I mean? If somebody asks me, kind of, what's it like? That's a word, yoga, that I would use to that maybe is, I don't want to say the closest thing, but it's the closest thing we can grasp in our heads sometimes to kind of what this is or what we've seen that we can compare it to. Um, we go to the, Kinstretch versus yoga thing. I don't hate yoga, and nobody I know does. I did yoga for a year or so myself, and I got great benefit out of it. What I don't like is people look up mobility, or they look up, oh man, I'm just so tight. I need to start doing mobility routine X or this or that Y, or I need to start doing yoga. That's something that people always say, hey, I need to get more, more mobility, more stretchy. I should start doing yoga. Like it's yoga's goal or yoga's job to get you more flexible. And yoga, that is not yoga's job whatsoever. Yoga is an internal practice for your soul and your chakras and your mindset. And there's a series of movements that can aid in that pursuit, right? And there's a series of movements that help with the breath work involved, which is the other thing that's huge in yoga. Pranayama, basically, right? It's there. There's so much breath work involved. The movements are secondary, and somehow in our Western culture, it's become all soccer mommed, and the movements have become the forefront of everything. And people act like that is the best way to do a mobilization or to do mobility. And again, I'm trying my best not to poo poo yoga, but if you've ever seen, um, these yoga courses, oh, I did a 200-hour RYT, this or that or the other. A lot of it is, I've seen the material. I know yoga teachers that are Kinstretch teachers now, right, and this and that. The material is, hey, lift your chest and open your heart up, or turn back so you stretch towards the stars, or I don't know. I'm giving them biased examples almost, but there's not a lot of backed science in these things. And when you really look at the research of how the body works, the body responds to force. And much, again, of the westernized yoga that we see today does not have a lot of that tension and a lot of that force. Do you hold positions? Sure. Most of it is passive stretching. So I'm bending over and holding a stretch for a long time. And is it hard? Well, yeah. And do you feel better after a yoga class? Well, absolutely. Because a lot of neurological things, sensory things are going on too. But um, putting force into some of these positions and actually doing, following a kind of a system or a path that actually grants you more range of motion that you can keep, as opposed to just going like, I don't know, yoga's magic and it just works. And the same can be said with foam rolling and band distracting and cross balling and all these things as well. But
No, that was very interesting and a good way to explain it. I love fitness memes, and when I read the definition of kin stretching, it kind of reminded me of that Jiu Jitsu meme where they say it's involuntary stretching.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
more or
but
less.
but this was voluntary. You
Very,
you actually
it's
yes.
extremely voluntary. Yeah.
So that's what it reminded me of. And I know you're a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. So just off the top of my head, I'm going to assume you've been training for at least 10 years.
Yeah, it's been quite a while, man. At this point, after a while, you get happy with whatever's on your waist, and you know, belt wise, I'm in no rush to make it any darker necessarily, but it's like, yeah, it's I think I'm almost there to a black belt. It's been quite a while. I got my brown belt in 2018, or I think. Um, so but again, I'm in no rush. Yeah, man, it's been a great journey. Somebody, I was talking to one of my professors actually, and they're talking about, man, like savor every minute that you have a color on your belt, because you're a black belt forever. You don't get another
Mm.
color on your belt. Like every minute that you're a blue belt or a purple belt or a brown belt, it's like eat that up. So yeah, jiu-jitsu is just talk about that all day. How long have you been training, by the way?
Oh, with just with COVID, and I had an eye injury that kind of kept me off the mats for maybe like 9 months. Um, so it seems like I've been training for way longer than than anything. But I took time off during COVID, so I would say maybe like 5 years at least.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And since a lot, I would say jujitsu was probably one of the first things where I'm like, oh, these are not positions that I normally get into, and
Yeah.
some of them I was put into by someone else, not voluntarily. And is that what led you to kin stretching? Because it was like such a like, was it jujitsu or you kind of found that before?
No, so I mean, I was doing jujitsu long before I found the FRC and Kinstretch stuff, but it does. I have to say, it certainly does. And um, I teach Kinstretch classes out of like the strength and conditioning gym that I do, and I teach them out of my jujitsu gym. And while it's great for everybody, I do have to say, like the jujitsu people, they like it a little more because they have something to apply it to, right? I I could we could talk about like a triangle. If I'm trying to put somebody in a triangle, you have to pull your foot way up here, and I have to put my leg over. Instead of me trying to grab my leg and put this on and trying to create that angle, if I could just bring my legs up where I want them and have strength in there, and just do it without my hands, it's a better situation. So it's you're training your limbs and your joints to kind of do whatever you want. To where if I'm just stretching normally, it's I don't have the ability to bring them up. I might be flexible, but it's like I have to have somebody else do that for me, or I have to use my hands or X, Y, or Z. So it certainly goes hand in hand with jujitsu. But no, I've been doing jujitsu a lot longer than this stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, it's so fascinating the dexterity that our feet can have. I watch a old Houdini videos, and to break out of prisons and jails, he'd use the keys and he'd get his toes, and he had complete control, just like of our hands, from his feet. So he could pick up the keys with his feet and use that to help him escape a lot of places. And just looking at those videos is just like pretty amazing. Because with shoes, we just lose so much control.
dude, 100%. I mean, it's frustrating is the wrong word. It should be a little more positive than that. But yeah, in the gym, I see so many people. They get so stuck on, well, no, I need to squat and do burpees and run and do all these things when you have them take off their shoes and they can't move their toe. You know what I mean? Or their toes are all stuck together like this big wad of something, and you're like, this is priority number one, or it should be. I know you're probably a big proponent of that with all the running and everything, but that's actually one of the there's a series of controlled movements you do with Kinstretch and things, but you could do a toe car, a controlled articular movement or rotation kind of. And it's amazing to see the high level athletes and people are just beasts and can squat and deadlift and run and CrossFit and all these things. You tell them to take their shoes off and lift their big toe, and it's like you told them to just like run a marathon or something like that. But it's they're looking down on it like it's alien. Like, how do I get this thing, moving around? But that's your contact with your ground. That's the key to everything, really.
And I know they've been around for a while, but the algorithm picks up something that I'm thinking about or talking, and all of a sudden they just show me everything. They kept showing me toe spacers, all these toe spacers.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, what do you think about them? Especially like for the people that, like you said, are so tight and
Yeah.
can't do anything.
Um, I think toe spacers are good in most in most situations. There are extremes though. It's like um and I think this could be said for any movement. We're just talking about the feet again. Yeah, let's say you have a client, you take their shoes off and they're we've all seen those feet before, or they're all stuck over each other. Like, I don't know that putting them in a spacer on day one is going to make them feel better necessarily. If this is their normal and we're like, no, let's just spread all these apart and try to walk around, they're not going to have a good time. You know what I mean? For a while. So maybe it's just like, hey, can you live with that? I'm using my hand, I know, but can you live with that big toe just off? Or can you live with maybe, trying to splay your toes a few times a day, just getting the motion back, their control of it again, instead of like a passive, like, hey, I just wedged this thing in my foot and I hope it works. It's like, part of it is getting people to take responsibility as well.
So at this point, would you consider yourself like a workout fanatic?
A workout fanatic. um
That you're working out at least 5 to 6 days a week?
yes, I do something. It never gets that old because I do jujitsu and stuff. So, sorry, my dog's biting my hand. Um, so if I'm not weightlifting, I will sometimes I trail run. I'm not huge on that because it kind of beats me up with everything I do. But trail run, I'm walking with my dog every day. Um, I'm doing jujitsu. I like swinging the mace a lot. I'll go to the park and do that kind of thing. I definitely do stuff, but what I consider a workout, I think, has changed over the years. You know what I mean? Like, oh, did I just go to the park and like dick around a little bit, or did I like, oh, I got a workout and I got a training session in? It has been a little different. So I think different people use that for different. I took my dog this morning on like we walked for, what do you think? For 3-4 miles or something like that. But I didn't really. That's some people's workout in their day, and like I didn't really think twice about it. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, that's true. To me now, I think working out is well, when I actually do a real workout, is I have a purpose for that workout.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
yeah, besides just I'm gonna just kind of go enjoy, go for a walk, go to the park, something like that. But it is still activity, which you can't knock, and
Yeah.
it's still good for you. It's just I guess different levels.
Yeah. How I wanted to ask you, I've seen your stuff. Like, how has your use kettlebells?
Yes,
Yeah. How has that helped your running?
I feel it's helped my running. Certain parts of the muscles that I feel more with a kettlebell, especially with the kettlebell swing. Um, but honestly, because I got my U.S. track and field level one certification, and I don't know, I just have a bad emailing system, but I'm waiting for my RRCA road running certification. And with all I think the thing that's probably helped me the most with running, it's called ATG, because
Mhm.
what he's teaching is like what we need for our feet, basically, which is like if you go to pretty much any gym, there almost any trainer can work you out and get you in shape, but um, to hit the parts that are weak, and sometimes if you just work out the parts that are strong, like if you're like a real top heavy guy, and then all you're doing is just hitting the top, you're making yourself more imbalanced than you
Yeah.
would be if you were to try to do already rehabilitation and even it out. So those type of workouts, I would say, have helped me out more than the other things that I've learned. I really do like kettlebells because it makes me feel like the imbalances in certain holds, and there's so many variations you can do with them. But I like the uncommon tools like the slant board. I really enjoy that. Uh, and most people that've never been on a slant board, just when they step on it, they're like, "Should I stretch before I get on this?" uh, yeah, I think I've seen you use one.
I use mine
Uh,
here and there, but yeah, they're great.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I love them.
I like ATG's knees over toes guy, correct?
Yeah, Ben Patrick,
Yeah.
knees over toes.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And Everybody has their different systems, and I've been trying to not be one that falls into one. I don't want to fall into the rabbit hole or be inducted into the cult of FRC or Kinstretch, or people fall into these rabbit holes very much. But there are common factors with all of these things, and FRC, ATG, if you talk functional patterns, if you talk, all of these things, you're putting strength into places that there otherwise was not, is really the common factor in functional range conditioning. Hey, we find a stretch, so we find tissue that maybe is not communicating well, but that's its end range. It's neurologically at its end, and it doesn't feel safe there. And it doesn't feel safe there because it feels like it's going to get hurt if it goes farther. And the only way we can convince it is with a little bit of strength. We push strength in this way, and this way, and this way, and we try to rotate it. And it's almost like you were trying to unjam like an old rusty joystick. It's like I wouldn't just take the top and try to do it because it would snap. You kind of have to jimmy it from the bottom and work it around and kind of be nice to it and spit on it or whatever. You know what I mean? like, but like, but like, get it moving around, and it's the same kind of thing to where you're finding a passive range, I could say, or a stretched place or somewhere that just doesn't have strength. And you usually identify that with, hey, I feel a stretch here. I bend over, touch my hamstring. It's saying, hey, we don't have much more room and I'm not strong here. So that's what's going on. Same thing happens if you look at some of the FP stuff, functional pattern stuff. They're going into a passive range and they're moving through planes of motion with the same idea. The ATG, I mean, it's more uncommon places that you wouldn't normally maybe take your knees or strengthen in these extreme ranges, and all of these things too. It's nothing like new necessarily. It's old good theories and principles, strength training principles, said specific adaptations to impose demands, basically being applied to these specific places. I'm just applying this just to my ankle and my foot, or just to my knee, and how it bends and articulates. Instead of going like, well, we'll just we'll use squats for everything. How's your squat? I don't know. Improve it, and everything else will get better. That's kind of an old way of thinking. So
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because Ben Patrick, he likes to credit a lot of the people he got it from, and working the working the tibialis, the way he kind of came up with it, and then he gives credit to I can't think of his name right now, but basically I guess he was like the man in weightlifting
hmm.
up until steroids happened. Then Arnold Schwarzenegger became the man, and everyone forgot about this guy. But he was like the last guy to win it before it kind of went into the steroid thing.
Huh.
And he's like in his 70s and still jumping. And it was because of his training his tibs all the time.
Really?
So yeah, so he likes to credit it, and that's one thing I like about the system. They're always saying we're not saying if someone knows something better, and it's like a collaboration of coaches from all over, and someone will say no, this will work better or whatever, and it's always like a fluid and moving forward.
Yeah, I'm actually excited to see other people branch off of that. I mean, he could do the same thing. He just has experience in that vector. But like, you could have a pitcher come off and take those same principles and do that for the shoulders. You know what I mean? And make a kick-ass program for the shoulders with maybe a little unconventional things people haven't seen, and it looks very, very new. But it's all great stuff, man. Yeah, I know a lot of people doing it, and that's great.
And so right now, what exactly? I know you teach jujitsu, and what are you actually training different students? You do it online, in person?
Yeah, so this is my garage actually. I train clients out of here. Usually I have two or three in the morning, typically in the day, and then I train out of a place called the Studio. It's called the Studio here in Ventura, California. A, a couple times a week. A jujitsu class or two a week, and then yeah, there's Kinstretch on in both of those places as well. So it keeps me busy. I'm still trying to, after years of doing this, I'm still like trying to balance and juggle my schedule and everything, and it's always confusing to get that right. But yeah, man, it's great, teaching, training, and things.
And I know you compete because I actually saw your last match on High Rollers on YouTube. So I got to watch that. That was cool. I'm like, it's always more interesting when it's someone you know or kind of know, like going up to competition. You're like, oh, how was that? And are you looking to compete again?
Absolutely. Um, I love competing. I was just talking about this the other day with some of the guys in training. There's just nothing like um, that kind of pressure that you get coming up to a competition. It almost seems silly and unimportant when you're not in it, but it's just like there's nothing that makes me that nervous as an adult man as like going to compete in jiu-jitsu, or I mean, or fighting, or whatever you're doing in that regard. But it's yeah, I love that. And I think having a goal, like if you set out, hey, I want to do this marathon or whatever, have something to train for, makes your training better, as opposed to just, I don't know, I don't have to go tonight, I have nothing to work for. But yeah, the competing is great. The high rollers, high rollers is a lot of fun. And yeah, I don't have anything necessarily on the radar in the near future, but stuff comes up. Actually, you know who Jeff Glover is? He is local around here. He has these little local tournaments. Um, Maybe that I'm not supposed to talk about, but that that it's almost like a somewhat of a buy-in, like a gamble, like you put
Oh, okay.
the pot and the winner takes. So those are a lot of fun. So maybe something like that, but nothing huge on a big stage quite yet. And if you know anybody, let me know. I'm down to compete always.
Yeah, I actually some tournaments have been doing that. I like that. I like the idea of to help the sport grow, where like the competitors have a chance to win money.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
what?
incentivized and it makes it a little more fun. I feel like yeah,
Yeah, one of uh, a jiu-jitsu guy I know, La Pella. He has his studios in like Victorville, I believe, and he has a what's called the La Pella Cup every year, and it's blue belts versus purples, and I think no, it's whites versus blues, and then purples versus browns. There's no black belts, and it's a winner take all, and there's money involved. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. COVID happened, so I don't know if they'll start it again. But I
yeah.
like little tournaments like that. Good idea, and I think it'll help the sport grow as well.
I came up doing like smaller tournaments like that too. You'd go to like, I live in Ventura, so you'd go to Valencia or little parts of LA where they'd have these smaller ones, and it's like you would see the same people, and it was like you'd go to all these tournaments. You might not know their names, you might have never shaken their hand, but it's somebody you would like go and fist bump with. Hey, good luck today or whatever. And it was like I loved that community of people that you didn't necessarily know, but like you would fight for almost.
And then also what you mentioned, I'd been preaching that. I'm like, the holidays are here, and if you want something to help you to stay as in much shape as you can during the holidays, because I'm Mexican American, tamale season's here, and I love that, and all this other food. So I say do some sort of race, do some sort of tournament. I In the past I did the fitness expo was always in January in LA, so I would do the Gracie tournaments in
Yeah,
January,
I did
and then I would
those, the nationals, right?
yeah the nationals
Yeah.
yeah, and I did one in the OC, and then LA marathons typically in March, except this year because of COVID, it's in like a week. But then they're gonna have it again in March. So usually that's what has me going. Like, oh yeah, I could eat, but I'm not gonna eat like as much as I like
But
want to, because I got something in the back of my mind that I want to do.
yeah, yeah.
And then for the people who just be listening in, I've on the Fortune Cookie, I have your Instagram, and I also have your link tree. But and I think I saw that you do online as well. Do you teach
I
online?
I am considering actually taking these. I'm trying to set up a system that's easy for me to use for online clients, but I'd like to do that in the near future. But I do have an online platform. I use Teachable, which is just a video platform basically. But yeah, it's intro to Kinstretch, so it teaches you like the basics of it, and there's a few classes that you can do as many times as you want. But um, yeah, I wanted something online to be able to share with the world. And there's so many people that are putting things online that I don't want to miss out. No, I definitely wanted to have something to like an online offering. You know, if people couldn't or wouldn't or whatever, I think physical person one on one is the best. But you know, as coaches, we have to kind of adapt just like our bodies and our clients' bodies. So, as much as I didn't want to make the jump, I'm not savvy with a lot of the computer stuff. Um, Here we are. Yeah. But it hasn't done me too wrong. It's kind of nice actually. So,
No, I understand. The online is a whole different animal.
yeah.
I've worked at gyms and then trying to work online and get online customers, and then them listening to you and actually doing it. Because there's different types of online. I think on Teachable, you're actually there, like how you and me are interacting, or is it pre-recorded? They watch it.
You can do live seminars. But mine are all pre-recorded, and it's just you click and buy, and there it is, kind of thing. But then
Yeah,
there's
and
also plenty of stuff on my page, and of course, everybody gets it. But
even like when I teach in person, there's always one or two people that are not pushing it or not trying or slacking off basically. And
yeah,
so online, there is a greater opportunity to do that or to be like, well, yeah, I did it. Because a lot of these apps, it's just you pushing saying you did it.
yeah.
And how do you actually know you did it? On one of the programs I was doing, you have to submit videotape of your last set. So at least there's some sort of documentation. Um, but I think right now that with what's going on. Some people are not going to feel comfortable going out. I think online is a good option, and the future is now, and a lot of people kind of don't even realize it. Like, there's a lot of audio apps out there. There's like Fireside right here, which is like interactive audience that could come up and ask questions with video that's being like streamed and trying to explain to people,
Clubhouse,
hey,
where we met, basically, right?
right,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and I mean, there's it goes on, and they just keep coming. I know I've been contacted by a couple now, but it it's if you I guess if you I remember hearing Gary Vee talk about this a while back, saying you guys got to do a podcast. You guys got to get on social media. You guys got to post because back in the day when TVs first came out, all the people on radio were making fun of the TV and saying that's not going to catch on. That's not going to catch on. He's like, just see in a few years, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, it's going to be like Fox, Channel 7,
yeah.
ABC, and it's exactly happening like what he was saying. And so the future is now, and it's a lot of people don't even realize it. So I'm trying to be uh, learn more and become more tech savvy to keep up with these times.
Same, man. I've been. It's funny you say. I was trying to get my folks, so my parents the other day. They don't live too far away, and they were watching like their cable box, and I was like, "You guys got to get rid of this freaking cable box, dude! Like you're paying like $100 a month when you could pay like 30 and have just everything at your Disney Plus and Hulu and all these things. Like you know what I mean? And people pay so much money for it, but yeah, these technologies are very very quickly going away. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's great too. And then especially for like let's say certain sports like jujitsu that maybe don't have like the largest following where you won't see it on local TV. Now there's apps and channels and like UFC Fight Pass where you can just go specifically for what you're interested, your community. Which to me, that's the nice part about the technology. At least now it's really hard to meet people that are interested in the same thing, especially probably depending on where you live.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the internet has blown up. I mean, I lifted earlier today with my buddy, and we were talking about this very thing. Like, how long have you been training?
Uh, Geez, that's a good question. I'm for a long time I just worked out, but didn't really know what
Right.
I was doing, and you know, you were mentioning the how tight you are, and my pain tolerance has always been high, so I didn't really realize things weren't active or that tight because maybe a lot of people are like that, and then geez, I don't know. That's I'm gonna have to kind of break it down to see exactly when I started.
Yeah,
Uh,
it doesn't have to be an exact number, but I was just trying to make the point of like, let's say it's 10 years we've been training and trying things, and whether they're working or not, or training clients or whatever the case. But like, it's over that 10 years, the internet has come so far. Like 10 years ago, I remember trying to find like kettlebell articles and stuff, and I couldn't read enough of them. Like I read all the kettlebell articles that were online. It was like, oh, there's nothing new out. And like today, you you don't have enough time in the day to read all the kettlebell articles, or whatever the case may be. But it was just such a, I was thinking about, again, I was talking about my friend today. It was just like, yeah, dude, a few years ago, like you could just sit there for like an hour and absorb all the information that you could find on some of these niche subjects. But now it's just, as you and I, and all these people like grow and matured and learned, I mean, the internet is bubbling and boiling up with information at the same time. So it's kind of a unique time to learn all this stuff, to where if you were on the opposite side of the before this or after this, you either don't have access to it or you do. And we just came up with it and rose with it as as it got more and more, kind of. So
oh yeah, because like when YouTube first started, I think a lot of people were just recording their cat and doing like fart videos, and now you can go on there and put in jujitsu triangle, jujitsu umaplata, jujitsu for beginners, jujitsu, and
you
it's
could type some
endless.
specific things onto YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like and you know the what I've learned about YouTube is it's basically showing you what's the most popular thing. So if you type in BJJ, whatever pulls up, that's what's being searched the most.
Mhm.
And that's like one good way that if you know people are trying to figure out, well, how could I rank high, go find some sort of niche that you're good at, that you know about, go look for the most outdated video that was done 10 years ago. YouTube wants fresh content, go make a video on that, and they're going to automatically put you up because no one has made a kettlebell video in like 8 months or 2 years.
Yeah.
And regardless, people are still, there's certain information that's going to be timeless, like workout information. I mean, sure, things might get bigger, faster, stronger, but overall, it's still going to be the general information. And 10 years from now, someone can go back and still YouTube it or Google it and find that information versus, I don't know, maybe like how to upload Microsoft 98. Like
Yeah.
after that, it's got a limited shelf life. But it's so fascinating what I see and how the kids learn now. It's just, oh, where'd you learn that? I went to YouTube, and they can
Yeah.
just do the moves that like I've been trying to do for years.
Just right off the bat, they kind of know how to do it, or that
It's a
previous.
whole different generation. But yeah, I just want to make sure that if there's anything that maybe I forgot to mention that you want to promote, anything you have coming up.
Um, no, I can't necessarily think of anything. I was just saying, just how we met over on Clubhouse, and that was such a cool community. I haven't been on there in a while, but what's up to all those people? If anything, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I met a lot of very nice, cool jujitsu people on there, and you know, I mean, this is fireside. It's not like man. I remember growing up on the radio. It was like they would just like make a big deal about other radio stations or TV stations, like people didn't know they didn't exist.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's like there's so many apps out there. Um, but to me, I'm gonna say I, there's not as many people on there. I don't know.
No,
I,
it doesn't seem like it as much anymore. But it's just cool that there are things like this that are not, Instagram or whatever. That people can connect on and everything. But
yeah,
yeah, no, I think you touched on just about everything, man. That was great. All I have to say is, yeah, if you guys are interested in any of that, look up FRC, look up Kinstretch. Um, I of course I want you to come train with me and buy my stuff, but like fish it out for yourself first. Honestly, like look into it and be like, is this right for me? Is this something I need? And I'm confident enough in the stuff in my own training and all of this that it's really there to help everybody. And again, it's just a filter that you put on all of your other stuff. You're still weightlifting and running and doing all the things. It's just if there was another way of getting the same kind of results, if there was another way that was this organized with it, I would support all the other ways. It's for me, I haven't found one necessarily, but yeah, man, look the stuff up. Keep moving, keep
yeah.
moving. Yeah,
I already did. It seemed interesting to me, and I'll look into it more. They had a lot of workouts on hips, and
yeah,
a lot of people have tight hips, so I'm sure that those are probably have a lot of views. So I'll definitely look into that. I'm definitely interested.
hell yeah.
And do you like kind of do a blend of all the information you learn now with the PT and the jujitsu? Uh,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like my clients are mostly like there's like a little bit of mobility stuff, like just as maintenance or a little bit maintenance homework every day, but most of it's just regular weightlifting. We're doing variations of deadlifting and squatting and pushing and pulling and rotating and stuff. You know, just like we were just talking about. There's no new magic tricks. It's all relatively boring, honestly. But yeah, man, it's
or they're trends, just like in jiu-jitsu. Berimbolo is the thing, and then it's something else.
yeah,
Things come and go.
yeah,
Do you train where Jack trains as well?
yeah, yeah. Me and Jack train the same place. Gracie Marumbi under Fabio Leopoldo.
Very nice.
I
Uh,
didn't give him a shout out, actually.
yeah, go for it. I anytime I'm in Ventura, I definitely got to go out there.
Please do, man. You are more than welcome in the academy.
I appreciate that. And Mike, I want to thank you so much for being here and everyone who's been popping in and out of the audience and that will listen in on the podcast. If you want to contact Mike, you can click on the link or go back and listen to. Uh, did you give a different? You gave a different like site than on your link tree,
Um, I
or is
have
it the same
well
one?
the Teachable, the online programs is on my link tree. I just have two
Okay.
Instagrams. I have a Homicide Control, which is me, and the Movement Dojo, which is kind of just more of my movement stuff. But follow both of them. Say hi. So
Yeah,
yeah,
there you go. And thank you everybody for joining in. I will be back next week on Thursday and Friday with all new shows. I forgot who. I have so many different guests. I can't remember who I'm having, but I'll announce it. Check the Instagram page, Athletic Definition. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Mike. Enjoy
thank
your
you, man. I
weekend.
appreciate you having me on.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.